Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a little bit of a later Saturday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Still nice and dark though, as I do like that, like working in the dark. Anyways, plenty to talk about today. I want to be following up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis, but big focus on the weekly closure that we saw from CME as it's going to set us up for likely the next week or two to come. So with that in mind, let's put the focus over here on the Krown Chain application. And I forgot to wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest. I would like to do that right now. I would like to wish you that, exactly. Anyways, let's put the focus over here on the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krownchain.net. And by the way, it is 100% free in case you happen to give a fuck. Looking at the open interest, did come down about 50 million from yesterday to today. But still holding the overall range from 2.5 billion all the way down to what we've seen in the past, about 2.2 billion. Although we don't necessarily have a price action range correlated with this just yet, if we were going to be looking at this as novel information. So just keep it in the back of our mind's eye, and I'm sure over the next week or two, that's going to take on a more significant meaning, but not necessarily for right now. Bitcoin dominant, still hovering a little bit above 64%. I do believe that it came down about 0.5% from yesterday to today, which is significant because Bitcoin is ranging, and this is essentially what we typically do see in markets like 2017, where most altcoins getting absolutely fucking boot caked on when Bitcoin is rallying or dumping, but when Bitcoin's ranging, a lot of them try to get a little bit of that Satoshi valuation back, but I'd still be massively bearish on most altcoins, not all of them, but most altcoins versus Satoshis, and that does not mean that I'm bearish on the US dollar valuation. In fact, if anything, if Bitcoin's going to be moving upwards and onwards, they probably at the very least hold their value, and for the more strong ones, they will rally as well. But of course, Bitcoin goes down, well, then probably not the case. So as always, Bitcoin, just the easiest one to be looking at. Fear and Greed Index also taking out an 88 from a 90 that we saw yesterday. And more importantly, when we go over here to the data tab to reference this in a more historical manner, you can see that very rarely do we ever even get into this region above even like an 85. But yesterday, printing a 90 read, that is more cautionary than, or it is very much cautionary, I should say, historically speaking. Now, we don't have too much history for this pain right here, unfortunately, as we've only been mining data for so long, but I can assure you that I have looked at this one plenty of times in the past, and very rarely has Bitcoin even got above a 90 read on the Fear and Greed Index, and typically that does denote cautionary times. Now, with that in mind, if it even is a cautionary time, does that mean that the whole run is over to the upside? No, but it could denote a nice local high, which could put in a consolidation sideways phase, for I mean, in some cases even a couple months. So with that in mind, I want to keep an eye on that. I do want to reference price action, of course, first and foremost, and then also looking at the funny rate. What do we see here? We see a lot of very strange things. Again, OKX just doing all sorts of weird things. Still, we don't really know what's going on with their whole legal situation. Apparently, the one person who's in charge of processing withdrawals there has been arrested by the Chinese authorities, and who knows what the fuck happens next? That's China for you. Nothing, nothing like actually bad to say. I don't know how things actually go there, but the problem is because there is like a major language barrier. It just makes it really fucking difficult to. It makes it really difficult to kind of figure out information. This was the same experience that I had actually in traditional markets as well, because there's a few Chinese stocks that traded on Arca, and it just, when you get the earnings and shit for them, it's like, this does not make sense. It's half the time. So I don't know what to make out of that, but it certainly is very much the outlier here. All of the other ones posting at the very least positive rates, and even Bybit getting up there now, 0.06%. Still not in the critical zone, but it's getting damn close actually at 0.1%, which is where it does start to really matter. FTX almost there as well, 0.09%, but I really want to see like a conglomeration of these exchanges get up there. So it's working its way upwards and onwards, and yes, that typically has denoted a local top in the past, anywhere above about 0.1 to 0.15. I have seen in the past on like BitMexico, just put an absolutely crazy read on there one time. I think it was like 0.3, which is just insane. When you think about it, you're gonna be paying out the fucking bunghole to hold your position overnight. But with that in mind, it's becoming more and more relevant, but it's still not actionable just yet. So let's go into the actual price action charts themselves. We're gonna start it off a little bit differently today with CMEs on the weekly and looking at the secondary charts here, because this is the big one that's really gonna kind of set in the more, like the next week or two buys here, and that's going to help obviously mediate the lower term timeframes, as it essentially lets us know, well, should we be buying or should we be not buying, or or selling perhaps. And in this case right here, yes, we actually did close above the topside Challenger band once again. And again, for reference, the topside Challenger band was about 14,350. And Sleeping Beauty is awake. Hello, sir. Good morning. Good to see you. How good to see you. Good morning. Okay, go pee. Anyways, yes, so, you know, closing above the topside Challenger band, I'm not willing to call any sort of a major top on this run, so to speak, from a weekly perspective until we at the very least close below the topside Challenger band. So with that in mind, I actually would be looking for new highs on this run in the next week or two. And we can talk about targets on top of that as the next area of relevancy, which, keep in mind, historically speaking, we don't really have much to be going off of right here. So realistically, it's going to be divergences. It's going to be fib extensions. It's going to be you know, very, very high term time frame pivots, of which we have one last one before basically 19,000. And that is right here at about, what is this, like mid to upper 16? Yeah, it's actually like mid 16,000 on that bull trap that we saw in what was it, January 2018. I guess I already have it in there, but nicely done. And as you can see, Bitcoin getting pretty damn close to it, but not all the way. Pretty fucking close, however. And let's put a nice little blue box in there. I don't think I actually did this in blue box fashion. Hold on, let me just double check on this one. Yeah, let's make sure that we get the wick on one end and the closure on the other, and there you go. You got yourself a nice little liquid zone right now. However, you know, I likely would be looking for Bitcoin to at the very least test within this region. I do still actually have that measure move coming in from the inverted head and shoulders on Bitcoin price action, which I was only showing the TA nerds for a long time. But now that we're in minute number 6 and now that it's almost happened, well, there you go. This one actually pointed a little bit more northwards than that, but that would imply that, yes, we very likely do hit this target. Could we get wicks above and then closures below? Yes. However, I would be I would be very cautious within this region. Keep in mind that anytime that Bitcoin is trending above the topside Challenger bands, actually, should I get into that right now? No, let's save that for a little bit later. Let's continue to talk about this a little bit more right here. So yes, but that doesn't necessarily tell us if we should be looking for a pullback coming into next week or not. And in fact, I would be looking for a pullback at the very least to test the top side of the Challenger band. Keep in mind, this will rise up when it comes back online, or when CMEs come back online for trading tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it'll probably crawl up quite a fair bit. For reference, in the last 2 weeks, or sorry, from last week to this week's read, it rose up literally $1,000. So there you go. It could technically be all the way up at, you know, $15,000 by the time that the next weekly starts. We'll just have to see what it prints tomorrow. But more importantly, I would be looking for that to, at that area at the very least, to be retested, maybe even a little bit lower than that as well. So tentatively speaking, if I had to guess, if I had to put a number on it right now, I'd probably guess it's going to come in somewhere around mid to upper $14,000, and I would be looking for a pullback there sometime in the next week, actually. But the question is, what should we be looking for first? Is it more likely to continue upwards and onwards toward that next proverbial targeted area, somewhere around like mid $16,000, which is, to be fair, another more than $1,000 run from where we are right now? It's kind of crazy. Or would I be looking for a pullback first? I don't think it's appropriate to say that just yet, or at least based off this weekly just yet. What we want to see is we want to come back preferably Monday morning and to look at the lower term time frame oscillators and then start to judge, is this more likely to pull back first or continuation first? For right now, I would just kind of highlight these areas out because of the way that the weekly did close here. I would be looking for, I would be looking for bounce within this region, as well as this next historical area right here. Like I said, around 16, I guess it's actually a $300 range from 16.5 to 16.8. Or what is that? Yes, or it's, yeah, about 16,550 to 16,850. So getting pretty up there. I'd be looking for kind of a little bit more of a distributed phase within this region as well. Now, I want to put something in perspective here too, because we will be getting the weekly close for spot price action tomorrow. Remember, this was also one of the things that was kind of just driving an overall Boolah-ish buy, especially once Bitcoin closed that first weekly dildo above, what was it, like 12.5 right here, or 12.2, something like that. And anytime that we do close above the top side Challenger band, save except for one example right here, which you could even argue was maybe not the best example. Bitcoin tends to trend pretty fucking hard after that. You see this example right here, boom, from closure up to next closure below. That's a almost 65% move. You see the same thing right around here, from closure above to next wick high, almost a 50% move right there within the context of the run from 2015 to 2018 at 20,000. You see several examples right here. This first one about 56% move to the upside. This next one right here, actually just a few weeks later, another 24% move to the upside. Then we got this one right here, another 48.25% 40% move to the upside. We got this one right here, this one carrying on for a few weeks, 53% move to the upside. And, several examples. I don't want to go through all of them. This one 100%. This one was a little bit lower because I remember it from memory, but you can definitely go over them yourself. But I just want to give like a general, idea, I guess, of what it typically does beget, historically speaking. And as it is right now, we are starting to get a little bit more within range of that. Currently, from that first closure above to where we are right now, that's about a 24% move. That would certainly be on the lower end of the spectrum, but it is starting to be a little bit more recognizable from what we've seen in the past. And of course, if Bitcoin were to head up towards that next major macro area, which I think it was like 16.5 or 16. Let's just look at like 16. I guess it'd be 16.5 right here. That'd be more around like 30%. So, that still, is within the guise of it, of course, and starts to be a little more historically relevant as well. Now, of course, if you go, further and further back, I mean, you're just going to get like absolutely incredible reads. Like this is not going to be all that helpful, right here. This one's going to be like 650%, obviously. So I do want to be looking at, the more lower and more muted responses from that. But yes, it's still very much in line with what we're looking at. And I probably would be looking for, at the very least, a medium-term time frame pullback from that mid to upper $16,000 region, anywhere between 16.5 and 17,000, we'll call it right now. I would feel very likely for a greater pullback, so to speak, on at the very least a medium-term time frame. And even I do think that we are probably setting up for a long-term time frame pullback relatively soon. And keep in mind that this is really the last relevant area from a weekly standpoint. Can't really use the lower-term time frames to use historical price action now because there's just not enough there. So obviously, this area right here in the mid to upper 16,000, and then of course 19,000, basically, read as 20,000, and then above there it's Bitcoin time, baby. That's what fucking time it is. And it's pretty exciting once again, man. I feel like people are a lot happier in this market as well because everyone's rich again, doing absolutely nothing, which is great. It's perfect, man. That's the way that you should live your life. However, keep in mind, if you were around for the past 3 years, hey, this kind of shit can and will happen. And even within the context of a bull market, you see incredibly nasty downside moves all the time. Or I wouldn't say all the time, but definitely, along the way, it is very healthy to have these pretty intense pullbacks, or I would read this as a crash. I mean, anything more than like a 20% move in the stock market is more or less a crash to me. 30% is just crazy. But you have several examples right here where the weekly comes down to the yellow 21 exponential average, and that's a 22% move right there, and that was one of the more shallow ones. This one's a 38% move from top to bottom right there. This one doesn't look like much, but that's another 38% move almost. We got this one right here, another 33% move. Again, we can do this multiple times. I don't want to go through all these because it's just going to make this video unnecessarily long. But again, if Bitcoin were to do something like that, I mean, keep in mind that because the numbers are so big here, if it were to play out one of those greater pullbacks from let's say like the upper 16,000 region, and let's say we just shaved off like 25% off that price action, which is very reasonable historically speaking, that would put Bitcoin back down around about $12,500, which, by the way, is your long-term horizontal area right here, which I likely already have in. Let me just pop back these in. Yeah, there we go. This blue box territory right here. Remember this major area that was very much relevant over the past 3 years that Bitcoin's just been getting rejected from, and putting all of these incredibly nasty downside movements from now actually fully getting above this year. And more importantly, well, it would start to make a lot of sense with that one. So fair enough. With that in mind, I do think that Bitcoin is going to play out one of those really, really nasty downside moves. Probably from one of these, one of these two is extremely likely, mid to upper 16,000 or 19,000, and it's gonna take some time too. It's not like Bitcoin's just gonna just spike to the fucking high and then in the same day smash down. No, I mean keep in mind that each and every one of these dildos over here represents 1 week of price action. So realistically, from top to bottom on this one, it takes about 2 months almost. It takes about 2 months. So it can take some time. This one over here a little bit more fast, 2 weeks. It looks like this one a little bit more fast as well, about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, before it reverses, and same thing over here, about 5-6 weeks. So realistically, these things do take time, and it's going to be very diabolical in the moment. Technically speaking, though, I should denote that we actually have hit the 236 fib here. If you're looking at a bullish retracement from the ultimate high of basically $20,000 to the ultimate low of this cycle at 3,100. That very likely is relevant. Here's the thing, though. it's always on, it's this one's going to be judged on a closure basis. What does that mean? That means that as long as Bitcoin's not closing weekly deltas above 16,000, I'm basically looking for this area to put in a major high. And again, I'm not saying that the macro run is done. In fact, I'd say that it's very unlikely the macro run is done, but I do think that we are going to be looking at a pretty big high here relatively soon, and that's likely going to come with a few wicks above this region right here. But as long as there's no closures above, again, about 15,950 if you want to be super exact, I'd be looking for things to come back down maybe over the next month or two and base out around. And I know that that's probably gonna piss off a lot of Bitcoin boolaws who say green number only go up, must be green, must green dildo in my face. It's like, well, you should look at that as an opportunity, if anything, or at least that's the way that I look at it. Of course, this is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, but Bitcoin does have a history of doing shit like this, where it does like to play off that yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, and those are all your bullish dumps actually throughout this past bull market right here. Same thing in the whole run from 2011 to 2014 right here. And guess what? Guess where the 21 would be coming in probably in the next couple weeks. 12,000 actually. Currently sitting around low 11,000 right now, but in a week or two, maybe even 3, it will start to get up towards that low $12,000 region. And I do think that it is time to be a bit more cautious. Also keep in mind that momentum oscillators, I imagine, on all the higher term timeframes right now are starting to get pretty damn spent here. You do see 3-day Stokes technically not crossing the downside. We will close them tonight, and I imagine any sort of a closure, any sort of a closure in the low 15,000s probably does do it. 2-day actually did have a chance yesterday, I think, or hold on, did it close yesterday? Oh no, it didn't. Okay, so we close this one tonight as well. And this one looks probably like it does want to cross the downside as well. Any sort of a close here or lower, I would imagine likely does do it. And the daily is flip-flopping around as well. Extremely close right now. And I imagine, kind of the same thing. Anywhere around here or a little bit lower will naturally put them down. So things are starting to wane a little bit. Again, I'm not saying that the macro run is done. In fact, I don't believe it's done actually at all. But I do think that probably over the next couple weeks, we do start to see a little bit of weakness here, and it does start to base out a little bit lower. But for right now, is that relevant to the lower term timeframes? Because this is what I fear, is when I do a video like this and I talk about long-term stuff like that to begin with, it's like Krown said, we're going here and then 12,000 today. I'm fucked. Fuck Krown. Fuck that guy. I fucking hate that guy. I fucking hate that guy too. And but you have to understand, or at least hopefully I can do my best to not be misheard here. I know that my expressions sometimes are like not fully clear. I think sometimes I just have like a lazy way with expressing myself, but looking at the low term time frames right here, let's start to kind of nail things down and talk about what's maybe relevant for today. And I mean, just looking at support and resistance here, I think that anyone could just eyeball this one out. We have the same ranges as yesterday, 15,450 to the downside and 15,750 on a 4-hour closure to the upside. If Bitcoin does, let's actually just, I want to pull up a fresh chart here just so I can do only the low term timeframes. Yeah, we'll do something like this. So it'd be something like that. Yes, boom. Hey, out there. Nice one. All right, sweet. And a nice little range like that. We can even make the top side a bit of a liquid zone. Not bad. I have to do my drawings because it's nice and pretty, and I have OCD. So there you go. But yes, any sort of a closure above or below here likely does beget a nice little continuation move. We could look at this as a flag formation, which actually will have a measure move both the upside and the downside. I actually do see this work out quite well in Bitcoin land. In this case, if it does break to the upside, any sort of a 4-hour delta closure, could we do this on a 2-hour as well? Yeah, we could. We could do this on a 2-hour. Let's call it above 15.8 on a 2-hour or 15,750 on a 4-hour, and I'll be looking for a move up into the low $16,000 region, 16,150 to about 16,200 region. I imagine that likely would line up with some sort of a fib extension here. No, that's not what I want to do. Where's my damn tools? I see you. Ha. All right, there we go. And plop it up like that. And what do you know? Oh, it directly in line with the 2.272. There you go. So lovely right there. By the same token, could do the same thing to the downside, which I'm actually a little more angled towards the downside in the short term as well. And what do you know? We do have a move down towards $15,000 base. So yesterday I was saying I was looking for a move down around 15,000. This was essentially that move right there. Did it get all the way to where I was looking for it? No. I did say about 15,000, give or take about $100. We got about $90 away from that, but I do think that it likely does give another try down here, somewhere around the 4-hour 21 exponential average as well. if I had to call it right now, mostly based off of low-term time frame momentum oscillators, we do see 4-hour Stokes starting to actually come down a bit. Here's the thing, though: I want to see them come down below the critical zone officially, while cross down. Obviously, that's going to happen in the same tick. No shit, but you know, we do need to see those two things in line with each other. And yes, I would be looking for this one to very likely carry on over. 4-hour RSI, again, long term, I really like it. Short term, a little bit of downside implied. 3-hour, what do we see? Oh, actually, I should talk about this as well. Okay, so this is what we're starting to look for on historical volatility percentile on the 4-hour right here. So what I've been saying is that this is cautious what we saw yesterday, but it wasn't the full thing. What we're looking for is like a whole slew, like we've seen in the past, right here, right here, right here. These denote nice little local tops for the 4-hour time frame. And at the very least, sideways consolidations, which does imply, you know, both sideways and down within a range. In this case right here, a range between 11.5 and 11,000 even. In this case over here, more so a range between 14,000 and 13,000. So again, you know, we're seeing signals that this is time to be a little more cautious with price action. While I do think that Bitcoin is, I can say two things at the same time here, because I believe that both of them are going to happen, maybe even within the same week. Bitcoin will both get a new high on this run and also likely come back down below 15,000 probably within this next 2 weeks. I'd feel quite confident saying that, maybe even within this next week. So with that in mind, let's keep on going through the lower term timeframes. We also are getting that same sort of Joule warning signal right here. It's not a sell signal just yet, but it is warning, and typically the warning signals do lead into like actual setups. But you can even imagine right here, it's not going to be coming this weekend. If it does set up, it would be early next week. Actually, it'd be early next week. So moving on to the 3-hour, I expect to see more or less the same, and that would be more or less good for kind of confirming this bias right now. 3-hour Stokes are kind of doing what I was looking for on the 4-hour, coming down below the critical zone, and yes, staying cross to the downside, good. 3-hour RSI, same thing to say here as well. Long term, it's constructive. Yes, short term, downside though, probably does test the bottom side of the bullish control zone. Moving on to the 2-hour, what do we see here? Same thing with historical volatility percentile, same thing with RSI, same thing with Stokes. It's good that they're all on the same side once again, and hourly is actually just freshly having a cross to the downside alongside all those other similar reads. Actually, hourly Joule giving the sell signal right here. It's not a super perfect one, but it is a decent one, so fair enough. But you know, how much do I trust those signals over the weekend? I mean, probably does get the range, to be fair. What about hourly RSI? Not really getting too much from that that we already haven't said, I suppose. So fair enough. Anyways, what I should say on the hourly is the historical volatility percent is actually fully contracted down to what was a 0 read just a few hours ago, apparently, and now expanding from there. So we likely do see a move this weekend, actually. We likely do see a move to the greater portion of the short-term range, which to the upside is going to be about 15.9, or sorry, 15.8, and to the downside could be all the way down towards about 15,000 bucks, as we saw right here. So fair enough, you know, it is lining up. So we actually are very likely to see a move this weekend, but I wouldn't be looking for further continuation on top of that move. What I'd be looking for is you know, either this target to be hit down here or this target to be hit up here, and then play out a pullback, or well, I guess in this case it'd be a pullback, and I guess in this case it'd be a pullback. So yeah, play out a pullback from one of those regions, because everyone gets tested first. So fair enough. What else? Looking at volume signature, we're getting very mature within this formation as well. On the hourly, again, just another thing kind of further confirming this. And naturally, volume and volatility should be working together. So it's good to have both these things kind of on the same side. Just kind of finding further confluence with this, suggesting that yes, actually we will see probably like a $500 move this weekend, which is, I mean, that's quite a fair bit. You know, it wasn't so long ago. It was just a year ago when Bitcoin was hanging around at like fucking 3,000 or something. Maybe a little bit more than a year ago. Okay, it was definitely more than a year ago. It's more like a year and a half ago, but down around here, where I was getting like a $10 move within a 4-hour dildo, and that was like par for the course for a month, I believe it was. It was, I mean, to see like an hourly range of $500 here is just, that's why we love Bitcoin, man. As a trader, there's so much opportunity. I can't really think of another asset that has the liquidity and also moves that you get to see in this land right here. Anyways, moving on to the medium-term timeframes, what else do we see? 12-hour looking a little bit tired here as well. Historical volatility percentile, red line to the fucking hilt. So I would be looking for, you know, a contraction phase coming up relatively soon. 12-hour Joule is going to be lining up for a sell signal here. Here's the thing, though. If you have the Joule, I hope this is motherfucking clear. I really do not like jewel sell signals on the weekends. What I like them to do is I like them to set up for the actual trading week, and you're going to find that out by CMEs, which you do see it setting up right here. But it's still going to take at least until, I think, Monday if it's actually going to fire off a proper sell signal. So for right now, that's just not it. But it's a warning. It is certainly a warning. 12-hour Stokes, way up there again into the same regions that we typically do see. Just some some short-term tops being put in even in the context of a long-term bullish market. Of course, we do have this trend line coming in right here. I highly doubt that this trend line is going to hold again if it does get tested. To be fair, I do think that we're setting up for one of those greater pullbacks. Like I said, probably get started in the next couple weeks or next month or something. Looking at the daily. Again, very, very similar here. I think that we already kind of went over this one. Daily Stokes looking a little bit tired. Daily RSI, do we have any divergences? Technically, no. I mean, if you go all the way back here to August, it's kind of far away to really be making sense of that. But, it still does matter. It just takes on less and less of an intensity as time goes on, and that becomes less and less relevant, especially when I'm running a 14 period like I am right now. I mean, it's just that's 2 weeks basically of price action, and I'm looking back 2-3 months, so not very fair and not very good idea, typically speaking. Anyways, what else do we want to talk about? I think I've already talked off your ear on most things. Start to go over some other assets here. What about Nasdaq? I want to follow up on that one. I want to see what the weekly closed like. And where are you, sir? There you are. We did get the closure above 12,000. So I'm looking for new all-time highs on this one coming into the next couple weeks. Weekly is looking incredibly good right here. I'd be looking for a retest of the prior high at 12,450 probably next week. And I'd be looking for new all-time highs after that. And holy shit, my computer screen just went to iSaver mode or something. Why would it do that right now? It just got light outside. That's strange. Anyways, doesn't matter. And we'll continue to move on with it over here. So yes, I'll be looking for new all-time highs in Nasdaq. What about SPY? I'm sure it's the same thing here. Whoa, what do you fucking know? It's the same goddamn thing. And we see the same thing from an oscillator perspective here too. Weekly Stokes, cross the upside into the bullish control zone. Weekly RSI, hidden bullish divergence confirmed, back into the bullish control zone. It's going up, baby. Well, I shouldn't say it's going up specifically, but it's very likely to go up. It's very, very likely to make new all-time highs. Oh, dear God, man. I'm curious what the monthly looks like right now. Fair enough. A consolidation at a high level. Bouncing off the exponential. Looking good, I guess. Looking good for now. Sweet. All right. So the bull market that never stops, I guess. Apparently the market loves uncertainty. No, what's actually happening here, and I think a lot of people have gotten this wrong, it's not that the market loves uncertainty. The market hates uncertainty. It's just this obviously trading against the dollar, while the dollar is taking on the uncertain terms. Well, look at what's happening with the dollar right here. It's fucking crashed. I mean, I wouldn't say it's crashing, but it's getting its own boo cake sandwich going on right here as well. So fair enough with that. And I might have to really let go of my ideas on the dollar soon, especially if it starts to break a little bit lower than what we're looking at right now at 91 3/4, especially. Then I'm gonna be very much wrong about looking for a long-term, a macro bottom right here. But I still think there's a damn good chance. Just looking at the rest of these assets over here, we'd expect all these one to be reversing to the downside if that was going to be true, and that's not what's happening, especially on the forex side, which we looked at yesterday. So fair enough. Something to keep an eye on though. Anyways, what else do we want to look at? Maybe some good old cryptos. What do we got with Uni bouncing? Guys, Uni's bouncing. We're rich again, right? That's right, baby. We just need another 370% to get to break even. Fuck yeah, man. This is great. I love this unicorn bullshit. This is the best thing since fucking chopped liver and butter and bread and whatever the fuck else you like in your life. And it's definitely not. Definitely not. Wait. God damn it. Stupid soundboard's not working today. Hold on. Still not working. You bastard. You fucking... How dare you do this at the wrong time? I know what will fix it. We're going to have to do it 2x louder to make up for it. Okay, enough of that. All right, before I piss off enough people. All right. Link dollar. Okay, so should we actually like look at Link, or sorry, look at Uni? Were you around in 2018 when? Were you around in 2018 when this was a very common pattern, and every time a green dildo prints like here, bounce! We're reversing! New all-time highs! This is DeFi! I'm fucking defucked right now! That's exactly correct, sir. Probably gets sold into. I mean, maybe gets a little bit higher here. Maybe back up to like 22 or 20,000 Satoshis. But I would not be surprised one bit if somewhere around here is your next local high. In fact, we might have already seen it. What about Link? What about Link versus dollar? Looking good. Versus the dollar pairings, a lot of things probably just going to be following whatever Bitcoin does. Heading back up to, I think yesterday, I was having a $12.50 target that obviously got exceeded, and I'd probably want to look at the weekly now. Weekly's looking good. I'd be looking for this. All right, Link Marines. It's actually looking pretty damn good here versus US dollar. I don't know about the Bitcoin pairing, but any sort of a closure tomorrow above 12.25, I'd be extending this run significantly, actually. 16 and 66 cents, by the way. Maybe even higher than that, towards like 18.5. But right now, it does look very good. Momentum also is going to be turning up on the weekly as well. Weekly RSI playing out some hidden bullish divergence. I do think that the easy part of that move's played out, but the next target technically would be 16.5. So there you go, and it does look like it wants to reach for it, but I'm curious how the Satoshi pairing then is working as, yeah, that's what I expected. Really fucking bad right there. We did hit our target all the way down to like 66,000 Satoshis, but what now? I don't have a strong opinion on this one right now. Historical volatility percentile did get really fucking low right there, and it is expanding, but in the context of a downtrend, I just don't think that right now is the time to be even trading these Satoshi pairings here. Monthly does say it is bouncy bounce territory though, and it probably does try a little bit higher after this. But I don't trust that. The US dollar pairing is infinitely more easy to analyze right now. Buterol doing the same thing. Weekly, really fucking good here. In fact, any sort of a closure tomorrow above 430, I'd have a $500 target, and no less, not even a cent fucking less. Sorry, no, it'd actually be even a little bit higher than that. It'd be like 510 all the way up to about 530. And it looks extremely likely to do it. I mean, everything's very likely to follow Bitcoin here. This is very similar to what we saw in 2016, 2017, 2018. And momentum also is looking nice and healthy here as well. You can even draw a regression on the weekly Stokes. Boom, there you go. Protecting against the bullish control zone. Weekly RSI, same thing. I mean, I'm bullish on this one. I'm looking for more. Again, any sort of a closure tomorrow above 430. I'm looking for a move past 500 actually over the next couple weeks. What else do we got? What else do we got? We got some. Do you want to look at Buterol versus Bitcoin again? I think Federal Reserve was asking about this one on the short-term time frame specifically. Where's a bounce likely to happen? Well, apparently right there. Is it likely to bounce up a little bit more? I don't have a strong opinion on the short-term time frames here. My strong opinion is on the long-term, that this is just an absolute dog shit piece of chart here. If it does want to continue upwards and onwards, maybe a move towards like 3 million, 312, whatever the fuck that is. It's too big of a number for me to say. But long term, I'm heavily bearish on this. I would be looking for, like I said, the full retrace. Down to like, what is this, 2 million Satoshis and probably beyond. But that's going to take, months here. Realistically, we're going to see monthly Stokes probably turn back down here. As we have seen in the past, we've actually never even got above that region. And that likely does come with another test to the downside of the range long term. So, extremely short term, I don't have an opinion on this one. If it does want to try more upside, my next target would be somewhere around like 305 to 310. I don't think that that's helpful. I don't really care too much about that, and I don't think that the Satoshi parent is anything worth its salt right now, especially when the US dollar parents are so much more. I think they're just more tradable. They have more. I would guess that they have more liquidity, and they're just more obvious when they're, of course, pegged against an asset that doesn't really move all that much. Like Dixie moves in like 0.0.0.1 decimals, so that's 4 to the right of 0. Whereas Bitcoin, when you're pricing in that moves in literally fucking thousands of dollars in a day. It's not comparable. It's just it makes things a little bit too difficult when you're looking at two moving assets. People try to do it all the time, but I don't think it's wise. I really don't. But of course, hey, this is not for me to like tell you what to do. I'm just kind of sharing my experience with it, and maybe that's useful for you, maybe that's not. So fair enough. Hopefully that helps in some way. Is there anything else that I want to check here before I send you off? Gold looks good. We'll come back to that one on Forex though. Yeah, I think it's time to just kind of stay on Bitcoin here. So I'll wrap this bitch up. Let's go back down to the lower term time frames. We do have a nice range situated here. I would more or less lean to the downside of the range on this one. I do think that Bitcoin is both going to test higher and also into the mid to upper 14,000s over the next couple weeks to come. The question to me is which one happens first, and I don't have an opinion here. My opinion is only going to be governed by the breakage of this current range. Again, 15,750 to the upside on a 4-hour closure. On a 2-hour closure, I'm looking for 15.8, driving targets into the low $16,000 region, around 16.1, 16.2. By the same token, to the downside, can use both a 2-hour and a 4-hour at 15. I keep on saying 11. Like, this is so weird. 15,450, and I'd be looking for a move down towards about a little bit lower than $15,000, somewhere in like the $14,800 to $15,000 region, and then come back to it after that. So with that in mind, I do want to wish you the best on this nice little Saturday. I apologize for the autistic outbursts and rages and all sorts of weird things going on in the stream. If you're new here, welcome, and you can pull back your pants up once again. And with that said, until next time, take care.